Episode 244.
Let's move.
Su Moqing signaled to Qiao Yifan. They couldn't just hide here forever. Once the pursuers went out and found no one, they'd definitely start searching the area. The two of them only thought of using this chance to slip away in the opposite direction. Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash immediately moved toward the room's entrance, but the moment half his form was exposed, he immediately ducked back. Qiao Yifan sent a message to Su Moqing. There are still people outside. Sorry, Sismo. Windward Smoke also hurried to the door. Qiao Yifan was mortified. This escape plan was largely his suggestion. For once, he'd been so confident, only to find the enemy still had someone standing guard outside. His judgment had been flawed. Qiao Yifan was instantly filled with both frustration and dread.
No problem. Let's charge out.
Su Moqing finished speaking, and her character had already flashed out of the building, leaving behind the two players from Chen Yehui's Jia dynasty at the rear. Qiao Yifan's judgment wasn't wrong. He just hadn't anticipated that, at this very moment, the enemy would have fresh reinforcements arriving, and among them, a guild leader like Chen Yehui. The newcomers lacked the ingrained thought patterns formed from the long chase. Chen Yehui held command authority. Qiao Yifan's entire design was built through a series of layered maneuvers. To an outsider, it was naturally useless. The two outside players were momentarily stunned to see Windward mischarge out. By the time they reacted and frantically sent warnings, the shells from Maple Tree Submerged were already flying toward them. The two scrambled to dodge, but Su Moqing's anti-tank shells were fired in 3 different directions. They would have been better off standing still. Their instinctive evasion only ensured each took a direct hit. Before the smoke from the cannon fire could clear, 1-inch ash charged before an opponent and unleashed a ghost slash. The man hastily leapt back to dodge, but 1-inch ash closed the distance with a quick moonlight slash. This time, his reaction was too slow. He was lifted into the air by the moonlight slash. And for every ghost blade, after a moonlight slash comes a full moon slash. It was almost a subconscious maneuver. Qiao Yifan was no exception. He followed up with a full moon slash. He sent the opponent soaring even higher, and gunfire immediately followed. Windward Rain, wielding her Gatling gun, unleashed a torrent of fire skyward. The poor guy tumbled through the air, unable to touch down. The other player had intended to provide backup, but he never expected the pace here to be so blistering. By the time he closed in, Qiao Yifan had already finished executing his full moon slash. He was waiting for him. A few basic slashes were enough to cut him down. With a swing of his sword, he unleashed the blade formation, bringing Windward Mist into its range. Laser cannon, anti-tank missile. The launcher's high burst skills grew even more formidable under the blade array's buff. Qiao Yifan, his skills off cooldown, unleashed another flurry of slashes. Those two poor players, ever since they got hit by that anti-tank missile, never even got a chance to attack. They couldn't even manage a proper dodge. They were either tumbling through the air or eating dirt on the ground. A moment later, all fell silent. They were already 2 corpses. Chen Yehui, upon receiving the message from the 2 left behind, immediately shouted and led the Jia dynasty players in pursuit. The players from the other guilds, hearing the shout, were momentarily stunned. Without any command in such moments, they tended to just follow the crowd. They hastily turned and rushed back, only to find the area before the house completely deserted. Where is everyone? Chen Yehui sent a message to the 2 from earlier. Where is he? Players from the other guilds were all asking Chen Yehui. They're dead. Those 2 answered quickly enough, but the other players' questions. Chen Yehui, however, was momentarily at a loss for words.
Everyone, split up and search!
Chen Yehui scanned the area, his voice laced with helplessness. This place is full of broken walls, dry wells, and dirt pits. Anyone could be hiding in a corner, impossible to spot at a glance.
What are we even looking for?
The players from other guilds had no idea what had just happened here. They cursed the two men in utter confusion.
They were hiding in the middle house. While we were checking the back, they charged out the front, killed 2 of my men. And now they vanished again.
Chen Yehui was also pretty pissed off. Yet he had no choice but to patiently explain to the doubters. Once he laid it out, everyone's frustration just melted away. What else could they do? Search away. Everyone scattered to the 4 winds to search, little knowing that Windy Marsh and 1 Inch Ash had already doubled back to the broken down house, leaped out the window, and were playing the reverse direction game with them once more. Meanwhile, outside Empty Frost City, in the village of Hard, Steamed Bun Invasion had only passed through by chance while making his escape. The reason was just as he'd said, it was close. So what happened? This remote, player, scarce area provided the perfect cover for his escape. With no prying eyes and blind spots everywhere, Steamed Bun Invasion boldly played a game of hide and seek with his pursuers. In Hard Village, inside a dried-up well, Steamed Bun Invasion stood up straight, just high enough to peek out and see the ground. The once peaceful Hard Village had been thrown into chaos by his intrusion. The NPCs continued their Shirinin systematic patrols, but the dozen or so players chasing Steamed Bun Invasion had already reached the village, their chaotic footsteps echoing through the streets. Their fragmented conversations drifted to his ears, carried on the wind. Steamed Bun Invasion immediately crouched down. If he could, he'd crank the game's sound effects to max right now, but alas. In Glory, there's no volume slider for sound effects, as the game pursues a realistic sense of distance. The only thing that affects volume is the distance between your character and the source of the sound. Beyond that, you could only turn the sound effects on or off. Steamed Bun Invasion crouched down in the well. He strained to listen to the players talking outside.
Where'd he run off to?
He can't have gone far. He's still in the village.
This kid's a sly one, running to a place like this. If this were a leveling zone.
Let's see how he dodges this. Footsteps sounded, some distant, some close. Clearly, a private search was underway. Steamed Bun Invasion listened, debating whether to get up and take a look. Suddenly, a flash of white light appeared before his eyes. In a flash, a character materialized before him. Before Steamed Bun Invasion could utter a word, the figure let out a startled cry.
Who are you? Quit.
Steamed Bun Invasion quickly stopped the man from continuing.
What a coincidence. Running into someone in a place like this.
But this guy was completely clueless. He kept muttering to himself. Steamed Bun Invasion listened as the footsteps drew closer. He didn't know if they'd heard the noise, but he was hiding in this spot, tucked away tight. But if he was discovered, there'd be nowhere to run. So Steamed Bun Invasion had a plan all along. If footsteps drew near, he couldn't risk it. He'd have to bolt from the well immediately. He was ready to make his escape. Suddenly, the guy in front of him shouted even louder.
You're the Steamed Bun Invasion, from Lord Grimm's team on the dungeon leaderboards.
That's right, it's me. But I don't have time for an interview right now. I'm dodging a mysterious pursuer. I'm making a break for it now.
Steamed Bun Invasion said in a low, serious voice. With that, he suddenly leaped, vaulting out of the dry well. His gaze swept the area. Sure enough, several figures were already closing in on the old well. As soon as Steamed Bun Invasion burst into view, immediately shouting, "Over here!" Steamed Bun Invasion didn't pause. He hit the ground running.
Hey, wait up!
The man in the well shouted, then immediately jumped. But his control was off, and he didn't spring high enough. His character's feet clipped the edge of the well. Just as he was about to emerge, that impact knocked him right back down into the depths. The guild players in pursuit had no idea who this guy was, and they quickly called out,
There's another one lying in wait here!
Whoa, hold on. Is this a trap?
Someone wondered. Players who had been about to duck into the buildings or hide behind walls immediately halted. They feared an ambush. The number of players chasing Steamed Bun Invasion was far fewer than those entangled with Somu Cheng and Qiao Yifan in the Glazed Lands. But precisely because of that, they were a bit more united and harmonious. This group of over a dozen players came from just 2 guilds, and they weren't mortal enemies like Tyrannical Ambition and Excellent Dynasty. They were actually quite reasonable about it. After a moment's struggle, the guy in the dried up Guel finally mustered enough strength to leap out. The character was clad in cloth armor, gripping a magic wand, clearly a mage. He scanned left and right after leaping from the well, ignoring the pursuing players entirely. Spotting the direction Steamed Bun Invasion had fled, he gave chase. Seeing him bolt the moment he surfaced, the players realized this was no ambush. Their guard dropped significantly. They quickly rallied and gave chase,